Zarek had always believed his life was simple. He worked at a small convenience store on the colony's outer ring, where humans and aliens lived side by side, but never truly understood each other. His days passed quietly, filled with the sound of humming lights, the faint smell of metal dust, and the occasional argument over product prices. Most customers were polite, some were curious, and a few were simply lost travelers. But that night, something felt different. The air felt heavier, as if the entire store was holding its breath. It was close to closing time. The sky outside had turned the color of burnt orange, the last light of the twin suns fading over the horizon. Zarek was counting inventory, his clawed fingers moving quickly over the scanner. He was thinking about his evening meal and the quiet rest he would have after a long day when the doorbell chimed. It was a soft, familiar sound, but this time it made him jump. He turned toward the entrance, expecting to see a tired miner or maybe a delivery bot. But instead, a human stood there. Tall, quiet, and completely still. The man stepped forward slowly. Dust covered his boots, and his coat looked old, like it had traveled far beyond the city. His hair was a mess, and his eyes were what caught Zarek's attention. They were deep, almost too deep, the kind of eyes that had seen something they shouldn't have. Zarek had served hundreds of humans before, but this one felt different. He didn't browse the shelves or look at the prices. He simply stood there, scanning the store as if searching for something that wasn't on display. "Welcome," Zarek said, forcing a friendly tone. His voice came out slightly shaky, and he quickly straightened his posture. "We're almost closing, but if you need something, I can help you find it." The man didn't answer right away. He kept looking around, his eyes drifting across the floor, the ceiling, and the far back corner near the basement door. Then, without warning, he spoke in a calm but heavy voice. "Do you ever wonder what's beneath this store?" Zarek froze for a second, confused. "Beneath?" he repeated, trying to sound casual. "Just pipes, wiring, and the storage rooms. Nothing interesting, I'm afraid." The human smiled faintly, but it wasn't a normal smile. It was the kind of smile that made Zarek's scales tighten against his skin. "I don't think so," the man said quietly. Zarek didn't know how to respond. He gave a short laugh, hoping to ease the tension. "Well, I've worked here for 5 cycles. If there were treasures or monsters under the floor, I'd know." The man nodded slowly, but his gaze didn't move from that same spot near the basement door. He walked toward it, every step slow and deliberate, the floor creaking under his boots. Zarek felt his pulse quicken. "Excuse me, sir," he said quickly. "That area is restricted. Only staff are allowed down there." The man stopped and turned slightly. For a moment, their eyes met again. Zarek couldn't tell if he saw amusement or warning in those eyes. Then the man said, "I understand." He turned back toward the counter and placed a few small items, a light battery, a data chip, and a pack of nutrient bars onto it. Zarek scanned them quickly, eager to finish the transaction. When he handed the bag to the human, their fingers brushed briefly. Zarek felt a faint vibration, almost like static, running through his hand. He pulled back instantly, pretending not to notice. The man only nodded once and walked out. The doorbell chimed again, and the moment he was gone, Zarek felt the air lighten as if an invisible weight had lifted. For a few minutes he stood still, staring at the door. He shook his head, muttering to himself, "Weird human." Then he turned off the lights one by one, locked the front door, and went to the back to finish cleaning. But the strange feeling didn't leave him. The silence of the store seemed too deep, and every small noise, the flicker of the lights, the hum of the cooling units, sounded sharper than usual. When Zarek finally went upstairs to his small living quarters above the store, the image of the man's face stayed in his mind. Those eyes, that question, "Do you ever wonder what's beneath this store?" Why would someone ask that? There was nothing beneath, just old storage and maybe some outdated wiring. He told himself not to think about it. Humans were odd creatures, always digging for things that didn't concern them. But that night, as he lay in bed, Zarek couldn't sleep. He kept hearing faint sounds, soft thuds, almost like footsteps, coming from below. He sat up and listened. At first, he thought it was his imagination, but then he heard it again. A low hum, followed by a metallic vibration. He frowned and checked the time. Past midnight. The store should have been empty. Zarek grabbed his handheld light and went downstairs. The store was dark except for the emergency sign glowing red near the exit. The sound was louder now, coming from the basement. His tail twitched nervously. Probably the cooling system, he whispered to himself. Just old machinery. He walked toward the basement door and hesitated. The handle felt cold, too cold. Slowly, he turned it and opened the door. A faint draft brushed against his face, carrying the smell of dust and something else. Something metallic and old. He shone the light down the stairs. "Hello?" he called out softly. No answer. He took a deep breath and began to descend. The stairs creaked under his weight, each step echoing in the still air. When he reached the bottom, he froze. There was a dim light coming from the far corner of the basement. A flickering blue glow, faint but visible even through the dust. And standing in front of it was the human, Ethan. Zarek recognized him instantly, even though the man's coat was now off and his sleeves were rolled up. His hands were covered in dirt, and beside him lay a pile of broken concrete and old pipes. He was kneeling, brushing dust away from something buried in the floor. Something that was glowing. "What are you doing here?" Zarek demanded, his voice trembling between fear and anger. "You can't be here. This area is closed off." Ethan didn't answer. He just kept brushing the dirt away, revealing more of the strange object beneath. It looked like metal, but not like any metal Zarek had seen before, smooth, seamless, and humming with energy. Zarek took a step closer, his claws tapping softly on the ground. "Hey, I'm calling security," he warned. Ethan finally looked up, and his eyes caught the light reflecting blue, the same color as the glow from the object. His expression was calm, almost peaceful. "You shouldn't call anyone," he said softly. "Not yet." Zarek hesitated. "What is that thing?" he asked. Ethan smiled faintly. "Something your people forgot," he said. "Something buried long before your kind took over this place." Zarek blinked. "This store was built only 50 years ago." Ethan nodded. "Yes, on top of something much older." He brushed away the last bit of dirt, revealing a small, round surface covered in strange symbols. The humming grew louder, a low, rhythmic pulse that made the lights above flicker. Zarek stepped back. "Stop this. You don't know what you're touching." Ethan placed his palm gently on the metal. "Oh, I do," he whispered. "And it knows me." The air changed instantly. A wave of cold rushed through the room, making Zarek's breath turn visible in the air. The blue light grew stronger, spreading across the floor like veins of energy. Zarek stumbled backward, covering his face. "What's happening?" he shouted. Ethan didn't move. His eyes glowed brighter now, and his voice was almost reverent. "It's still alive," he said quietly. "After all this time, it's still alive." The light pulsed again, and for a moment, Zarek thought he heard something. A faint whisper, like distant voices speaking from another world. The ground trembled slightly beneath his feet. Zarek wanted to run, to get as far away from that glowing thing as possible, but his legs wouldn't move. He watched in frozen disbelief as the metal began to shift, like it was breathing. Lines of light ran across its surface, forming patterns that looked almost human, like a heartbeat. Ethan looked over his shoulder at Zarek. His face was calm but serious now. "You need to leave," he said. "What's waking up down here? It remembers." Zarek's throat felt dry. "Remembers what?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Ethan didn't answer. He turned back to the object, his hand resting gently on it as if greeting an old friend. The light around them flickered once more, and then the entire basement filled with that same cold, blue glow. For one terrifying moment, everything was silent, completely silent. No hum, no footsteps, no sound at all. Just that light. Then a voice. Faint, mechanical, but almost human. echoed softly through the room. System reinitializing. Zarek stumbled backward, his heart pounding in his chest. The human didn't move. He just smiled faintly, eyes fixed on the awakening machine. And then, in the pale blue light, Ethan whispered again, words that sent chills down Zarek's spine. It's still alive. Zarek's body refused to move. He stood frozen at the bottom of the basement stairs, his eyes wide as the soft blue glow pulsed across the walls like living veins. The hum grew deeper now, a low sound that made the floor tremble slightly under his feet. He wanted to run, to escape that strange cold air that filled the room, but something about the moment held him there. The human, Ethan, was still kneeling beside the uncovered metal surface. His face was calm, almost peaceful, and the strange object kept shining brighter with every second. Zarek swallowed hard. Ethan, he said, his voice shaking, you need to stop. Whatever that thing is, it's dangerous. The human finally turned his head. His eyes reflected the blue light, and for a second, they didn't look human at all. It's not dangerous, Ethan said softly. It's beautiful. It's waiting to be woken up. Zarek shook his head, taking a step backward. You don't understand. This is alien territory. Any kind of human relic found here must be reported immediately. That's the law. Ethan smiled faintly. The law was written by those who forgot history, he replied. This isn't a relic. It's a memory, a piece of what humans were before your kind came. Zarek didn't know what to say. He had heard stories of the old wars, the time before the Galactic Peace Treaty, when humans and aliens fought over planets, over knowledge, over survival. But that was hundreds of years ago. Most aliens believed humans were just another primitive species that got lucky and then disappeared. Yet here was a man, claiming otherwise, standing over something that seemed alive. The blue light suddenly dimmed and then flashed once, hard enough to make Zarek flinch. A deep mechanical sound echoed through the basement, followed by a faint voice, broken and static-filled, whispering words in an ancient language. Ethan tilted his head slightly, listening carefully. Zarek couldn't understand a single word. What is it saying? He asked, his voice low. Ethan smiled without looking at him. It's remembering, he said quietly. It's trying to find its voice. The hum grew stronger again, vibrating through the floor. Dust fell from the ceiling, and small objects on the shelves above began to rattle. Zarek stumbled backward, almost falling. You're going to destroy the building, he shouted. Ethan placed his hand flat on the glowing surface. No, he said calmly. It's just waking up, like an old giant stretching after a long sleep. Then, to Zarek's horror, the metal beneath Ethan's hand began to open. It unfolded like flower petals made of steel, smooth and silent, revealing a round, glowing sphere underneath. The sphere floated slightly above the ground, spinning slowly, casting light across the entire basement. The hum turned into a soft, rhythmic beat, like a heartbeat. Zarek could only stare. What is that? He whispered. Ethan looked at the orb with quiet awe. A core, he said. A memory core. Human technology from before the last war. Zarek blinked in disbelief. That's impossible. Human tech doesn't do this. Your machines are dead, simple things. They don't think. They don't live. Ethan finally looked at him, his expression serious now. You don't know humans as well as you think, Zarek. We built things that could dream. The alien took a cautious step forward, his eyes fixed on the spinning orb. If that's true, then why is it buried here? Ethan's gaze shifted downward. Because your people made sure it would be, he said softly. After the war, they covered every trace of human advancement. They called us violent, reckless, dangerous, and maybe they were right. But they also feared us. They feared what we could do. Zarek felt a chill run down his spine. He didn't want to believe it. His own species, the Thalri, were known for keeping order and peace across the colonies. They had ended wars, not started them. At least that was what everyone was taught. Ethan stepped closer to the core. This thing, he said, is proof that the truth wasn't erased completely. As he spoke, The sphere glowed brighter and projected a hologram into the air. A shape of a planet, spinning slowly. Zarek's eyes widened when he recognized it. That's Earth. Ethan nodded. Home, he said quietly. Or what's left of it. The hologram zoomed in closer, showing oceans and continents marked with strange lights. Then, a voice echoed again, clearer this time, though still mechanical. Humanity, defense, protocol, reinitializing. Zarek took a step back. Defense protocol? What does that mean? Ethan didn't answer. His expression had changed, no longer calm but alert. He moved his hand across the hologram, bringing up symbols and data lines that Zarek couldn't read. The sphere responded instantly, its glow pulsing faster. Ethan, Zarek said nervously, turn it off, please. This is not a museum piece. This could be a weapon. The human didn't stop. It's not a weapon, he said firmly. It's a message. But your kind wouldn't let us finish it. Zarek felt anger mixing with fear. You're talking nonsense. The war ended centuries ago. None of this matters now. Ethan finally turned toward him, his voice calm but sharp. If it didn't matter, then why was it buried here? Why hide it under your people's stores and cities? Before Zarek could answer, the hologram changed. It showed a massive ship drifting in darkness, human design, unmistakable. Then the voice spoke again, this time in clear, modern speech. If you see this, the last of humanity is gone. But we left something behind. A memory. A chance to begin again. Zarek's mouth went dry. Gone, he whispered. Humans aren't gone. You're right here. Ethan's expression softened. He looked almost sad. I'm not like them, he said slowly. Not anymore. Zarek frowned. What do you mean? Ethan hesitated, then lifted his sleeve. A faint blue light pulsed beneath his skin, running through his veins like liquid metal. I'm not completely human, he said quietly. I'm part of the system they left behind. A living key to wake their technology. Zarek's mind spun. You're a machine? He asked. Ethan smiled faintly. Half. Human mind, synthetic body. Built to remember. Built to guard this. The basement filled with another pulse of light. The orb's surface shifted again, showing new data. Symbols that Zarek recognized this time. They were Thalri command codes. His own people's language. What is that doing there? Zarek asked, shocked. Ethan's voice was cold now. Your leaders found our technology after the war. They used it, changed it, pretended it was their own. Every ship, every weapon, every city light, all of it born from human hands. Zarek's heart pounded. That's not true, he said, almost whispering. We built our own systems. Did you? Ethan asked quietly. Or did someone build them for you? Before Zarek could respond, a loud alarm suddenly blared from above. Red lights flashed on the control panels in the basement ceiling. A robotic voice echoed through the building. Unauthorized energy surge detected. Security response initiated. Zarek's communicator buzzed. Zarek! A voice shouted through static. We're detecting a power anomaly from your location. Are you okay? Zarek looked at Ethan, panic rising in his chest. They're coming, he said. The patrols will be here any second. You need to shut this thing down. Ethan looked at the orb. If I shut it down now, it might never wake again. You'll get us both killed, Zarek shouted. Ethan's eyes glowed brighter, reflecting the blue light of the sphere. Maybe, he said, but at least they'll know what you tried to bury. The floor shook harder now. Upstairs, Zarek could hear the sound of engines, security drones approaching fast. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the orb's light filled the entire room like liquid fire. Zarek grabbed Ethan's arm. Listen to me. Whatever this thing is, it's not worth dying for. Ethan looked down at his hand, then back at Zarek. For a moment, something human flashed in his expression. Fear, maybe regret. Then he said quietly, You don't understand. I already died for it. The words hit Zarek like a cold wind. Before he could speak, the orb emitted one final pulse. so bright it blinded him. He fell back against the stairs, covering his eyes. When he opened them again, Ethan was standing at the center of the light, surrounded by floating holographic shapes and streams of data. His voice sounded strange now, layered with a faint metallic echo. "They're here," he said, "and they'll destroy it if we let them." Zarek's communicator crackled again. "All units, target the energy source under Sector 19. Authorization to neutralize." Ethan turned toward Zarek one last time. "Then I guess we'll have to remind them," he said softly, "why humans were feared." The basement door burst open above them, and shadows filled the stairs. Zarek looked up. Armed alien patrols were descending, weapons drawn. But before they could reach the bottom, the orb flashed again, brighter than anything Zarek had ever seen. The hum turned into a roar, and the entire store began to shake. The last thing Zarek heard before everything turned to blinding light was Ethan's calm voice. Steady, certain, and strangely proud. "You can't destroy what's already awake." When the blinding light finally faded, Zarek found himself lying on the cold floor. His ears rang, and for a few moments, everything sounded distant. The faint echo of alarms, the metallic creak of the building, the soft hum still coming from the glowing orb. He blinked several times, trying to see clearly. The basement was half covered in dust and smoke now, with cracks running across the ceiling. Shelves had fallen, boxes were scattered everywhere, and the smell of burned metal filled the air. Ethan was still standing in the center of it all. His clothes were torn, his skin faintly glowing under the blue light that now pulsed gently through the room. The orb hovered in front of him, calm and steady, as if the chaos around them didn't exist. Zarek slowly pushed himself up, coughing. What did you do?" he asked, his voice hoarse. Ethan turned slightly. His eyes no longer looked fully human. They shimmered with that same deep blue glow. "I didn't do anything," he said softly. "It woke up." Zarek staggered to his feet, shaking his head. "You destroyed half the building. The patrols will come back. You can't stay here." Ethan didn't answer. His attention was on the orb. It had started projecting something, a holographic image made of light and static. At first it was blurry, just moving shadows. But then it became clear. Zarek saw a planet floating in the air, round, blue, and white. Earth. He had seen pictures of it in old archives, but those were just historical files, cold, empty data. This was different. The image felt alive, detailed, almost real. Clouds moved across its surface, and flashes of light blinked over the continents like faint memories of cities long gone. Zarek took a step closer, mesmerized. "That's your home world," he whispered. Ethan nodded slowly. "Was," he said. "It used to be home. Now it's gone." The hologram changed again, showing burning skies, cities collapsing, oceans boiling. A soft female voice began to speak, broken at first, filled with static. "If you see this," the voice said, "the last of humanity is gone, but we left something behind." Zarek froze. He looked at Ethan, who didn't move. His expression was distant, almost sad. "What does that mean?" Zarek asked quietly. "Gone? That can't be true. There are humans everywhere. Colonies, trade hubs." Ethan interrupted him gently. "Those aren't humans, Zarek. Not the way we were. Most of them are clones or half-synthetics built by alien companies. Copies. Experiments. The real ones died long ago." Zarek stared at him, unable to process it. "That's impossible. You're human." Ethan gave a faint, tired smile. "Not exactly." He lifted his hand, and the blue veins under his skin brightened for a moment. "I'm a memory, a living key, half man, half machine, built to remember everything they lost." Zarek took a slow step back. "You mean, you're not real?" Ethan looked at him calmly. "I'm as real as they made me. My body is synthetic, but my mind belonged to someone who once lived, once fought, once dreamed." The voice from the hologram continued. "We built guardians, memory carriers, to protect the legacy of Earth. They hold our knowledge, our strength, our history. If found, They will awaken what we left behind. Zarek swallowed hard. You're one of them, he whispered. Ethan nodded. I was programmed to find what remained of our world, to make sure it wasn't erased completely. But your people found the cores before I could. They buried them, hid them, pretended they never existed. Zarek felt anger rise in his chest. My people are not monsters, he said sharply. We keep peace. We protect civilization. Ethan looked at him, his voice quiet but firm. Peace built on lies isn't peace, Zarek. It's control. Zarek wanted to argue, to shout that it wasn't true, but the hologram changed again. Now it showed images of ships, human ships, thousands of them, leaving Earth's orbit. Each one carried people, machines, and something glowing at their cores. The voice spoke again. Humanity will not die. We will live in the code, in the stars, in every spark of thought that survives the dark. Zarek's eyes widened. They uploaded themselves, he said slowly, into machines. Ethan nodded. We became data, light, patterns of thought. But something went wrong. Most of us didn't survive the transfer. I did, or at least a version of me did. The building above them creaked. Dust fell from the ceiling again. Through the cracks in the wall, Zarek could hear faint sirens outside. The security patrols were surrounding the area. Ethan glanced upward. They're here. Zarek panicked. You have to shut this thing down. They'll destroy the entire block if they think it's a threat. Ethan didn't move. It's too late to hide now, he said. The message is already transmitting. Zarek blinked. Transmitting? To where? Ethan looked at him. To the others. Before Zarek could ask what that meant, the hologram expanded again. Lines of light spread across the ceiling like a map of the stars. Thousands of tiny blue dots appeared, scattered across the galaxy. Each one pulsed faintly. Zarek stared in shock. What are those? Other cores, Ethan said softly. Hidden on different planets. All of them waiting for a signal. The one I just sent. Zarek's chest tightened. You're waking them up? Do you realize what that means? Entire worlds could be in danger. Ethan shook his head. Or maybe they'll finally learn the truth. The sirens grew louder. Boots and metallic feet pounded above them. Voices shouted orders. Zarek could feel the vibrations through the floor. The patrols were inside the store now. Ethan, please, Zarek said, desperate now. You have to stop. They'll kill you. Ethan gave a faint smile. They've already tried. Many times. Zarek didn't understand. What are you talking about? Ethan's eyes grew distant again. Every time one of us wakes, the same thing happens. The same fear. They find us, destroy us, and bury the truth deeper. But we always come back. You can't erase an idea, Zarek. Not forever. The basement door burst open with a crash. Armed soldiers rushed down the stairs, their armor glowing with the insignia of the Thalri command. They shouted for Ethan to step away from the device. Zarek raised his hands, shouting, Wait! Don't shoot! He's not! But before he could finish, one of the soldiers fired a warning shot. The energy beam hit the wall near Ethan, sending sparks across the room. Ethan didn't flinch. He turned slowly toward them, eyes glowing brighter. Don't make this mistake again, he said calmly. The soldiers hesitated. Something about his voice, calm yet powerful, made them pause. The orb behind him pulsed once, and the air shimmered with invisible energy. Their weapons flickered, the power cells inside them dying instantly. One by one, the soldiers' armor lights went dark. Zarek's heart pounded. What did you do? Ethan looked at him. I didn't do anything. The machine recognized me. It remembers its commander. The soldiers tried to back away, fear spreading across their faces. The basement shook again as the hologram above them shifted, showing a massive ship rising from beneath the planet's surface. Not real, but projected like a memory. The human voice spoke once more. Earth's defense program reinitialization complete. Awaiting command. Zarek could barely breathe. It's an army, he whispered. You're waking an army. Ethan turned to him, his voice calm. Not an army. A memory of one. But even a memory can change everything. Outside, loud explosions shook the ground. The alien patrols were calling for reinforcements. The building trembled again, and cracks spread through the walls. Dust rained down like snow. Zarek looked around in panic. "We have to get out of here. The place is collapsing." Ethan didn't move. His gaze stayed fixed on the orb. "Go," he said quietly. "You don't belong in what's coming next." Zarek hesitated. Despite everything, despite the fear, a strange feeling grew in his chest. Something like respect. This man or machine or whatever he was wasn't acting out of hatred. He truly believed he was doing something right. "I'm not leaving you," Zarek said. Ethan looked at him with faint surprise, then smiled. "You're braver than most of your kind." Suddenly, a blinding beam cut through the ceiling. A plasma cannon blast from above. It hit the ground near the orb, sending both of them flying. Zarek hit the wall hard, his vision spinning. When he opened his eyes, he saw Ethan kneeling beside the damaged sphere. Sparks danced across its surface, and the hologram flickered wildly. Zarek crawled toward him. "Ethan, it's going to explode." Ethan's voice was weak but steady. "No, it's completing the message." The orb pulsed one final time. The hologram stabilized, showing one last image. The surface of Earth, shining blue again, peaceful, alive. The voice spoke clearly now, with no static at all. "Remember us, not for our wars, but for our will to live. The stars were never yours to own. They belong to everyone who dares to dream." The light faded slowly, and silence filled the room. Zarek stared at the now dark sphere. His breath came fast, his heart still racing. It's gone," he whispered. Ethan smiled faintly, his eyes dimming. "No," he said softly. "It's just begun." Above them, the sounds of the patrols grew louder again. Zarek knew they didn't have much time. He helped Ethan to his feet. "We need to move. Now." Ethan nodded slowly, his steps unsteady. "There's one more thing we have to find," he said. "One more truth buried under this city." Zarek frowned. "What are you talking about?" Ethan looked back at the shattered floor, where faint blue cracks still glowed through the dust. "The ship," he said quietly. "It's waking up." Zarek followed his gaze and felt his stomach twist. Beneath the broken ground, something massive moved, metal shifting, deep and ancient, alive. Ethan turned toward him, a calm but knowing smile on his face. "You wanted to know what was beneath the store," he said softly. "Now you'll see." The floor trembled again, and from deep below, a new light began to rise, brighter, colder, and infinitely more powerful. And as the walls shook and the ground cracked open, Zarek realized with horror that this was only the beginning. Zarek could feel the ground shaking beneath his claws. It wasn't just a small vibration anymore. The floor itself was moving, breathing, as if something alive was waking up below. Dust poured from the ceiling, lights flickered, and the air filled with a deep metallic hum that made his chest vibrate. Ethan stood near the cracked floor, his eyes glowing faintly blue. "It's starting," he whispered. Zarek swallowed hard. "What's starting? What did you do?" Ethan looked at him, calm but serious. "I didn't do anything. The ship recognized the signal. It's responding to my presence." Zarek took a cautious step back. "You mean, there's actually a ship down there?" Ethan nodded. "Not just a ship, a seed of Earth's last defense. It's been sleeping here for centuries." The floor split open suddenly with a deep, echoing crack. The ground beneath them began to sink as metal plates slowly shifted apart. Bright blue light spilled through the widening gap, revealing a massive structure buried under the store. Zarek stared in disbelief. Beneath the city, under concrete and steel, something ancient and mechanical was moving. A huge circular platform covered in symbols he didn't recognize. It was larger than any ship he had ever seen. Ethan stepped closer to the edge, the light reflecting on his face. "They called it the Ark Core," he said quietly. "It was built to carry the last human code, the minds that survived the fall." Zarek blinked rapidly. "You mean there are People inside? Not people, Ethan said softly. Echoes, memories, fragments of what they were. The hum grew louder, and a gust of hot air blew upward from the glowing cracks. The entire basement trembled, and Zarek could hear the city above them rumbling. Streets shaking, windows shattering, alarms blaring. From above, the muffled sound of sirens and military aircraft echoed through the night. The Thalri patrols weren't just outside anymore. The entire sector had been locked down. Zarek turned to Ethan, panic rising in his voice. If they see this, they'll bring the whole city army. They'll think it's a weapon. Ethan's expression didn't change. Maybe it is, he said, but not the way they think. The light grew stronger. Metal panels began to rise from the ground, forming shapes, walls, towers, and curved structures glowing with white energy lines. The air around them felt heavy, charged, like lightning trapped in a bottle. Zarek covered his eyes as a blinding flash filled the basement. When the light faded, a circular platform stood before them, floating just a few inches above the ground. At its center, a large sphere hovered, pulsing with a deep, rhythmic glow. Ethan walked toward it slowly, almost reverently. This is it, he said. The heart of the Arkansas. Zarek followed, his voice trembling. What does it do? Ethan placed his hand on the surface of the sphere. It remembers every thought, every word, every dream humanity ever recorded. It holds the map of what we once were. Zarek stared at him in awe. You mean, this thing remembers your entire species? Ethan nodded. Yes, and now it's waking up. Before Zarek could respond, a deep mechanical voice echoed through the chamber. Identity confirmed. Human protocol active. Reinitializing core access. Zarek stumbled backward, his heart racing. The voice wasn't coming from Ethan. It came from everywhere. The walls, the floor, even the air vibrated with it. Ethan's hand still rested on the glowing sphere. His eyes closed as streams of blue light moved up his arm, wrapping around his body like living energy. It knows me, he murmured. It's unlocking the archive. Zarek could only stare in silence. Around them, holographic images appeared, thousands of them, floating in midair. People, places, landscapes, humans laughing, crying, fighting. Great cities filled with light, oceans shining under the sun. A whole world reborn in memory. Zarek's eyes widened. This is incredible. But Ethan's face had changed. His expression was pained, almost sorrowful. They didn't survive, he whispered. All of this, it's just ghosts. The holograms shifted again. The images of Earth's beauty turned into fire and ruin, wars, storms, and machines rising from the ground. Then came silence. The last image was of the blue planet slowly fading into darkness. Zarek felt a lump in his throat. For a moment, he didn't see humans as invaders or troublemakers. He saw them as something fragile, a species that had fought so hard not to disappear. Ethan finally opened his eyes. Now you understand, he said quietly. This isn't about power. It's about remembering who we were, so we don't repeat the same mistakes. Zarek looked at him, unsure what to say. But why wake it now? Why here? Ethan sighed softly. Because your people found one of the cores decades ago. They used it to build your cities, your machines, your weapons. Everything your empire runs on came from stolen human technology. Zarek froze. That's not true, he began, but his voice broke. Deep down, he knew there had always been rumors about alien ruins, hidden research, forbidden technology. Ethan looked at him gently. You didn't know. None of you did. But the ones who did, they feared what would happen if the truth came out. Zarek took a shaky breath. They'll never let you live now. They'll destroy this place. Ethan smiled faintly. Then I'll have to leave before they do. The humming sound grew louder again. The arc core's light became blinding, and the platform started to lift slowly. Dust and debris rose into the air, swirling like a storm. Zarek shouted over the noise. Ethan, what are you doing? Ethan's voice was steady. The arc has to rise. It's not safe here anymore. The floor around them cracked open even more as the platform began to ascend. Through the gaps, Zarek could see deep tunnels filled with light, and below them something even larger. It wasn't just a ship. It was an entire buried structure, like a city made of silver and glass, stretching far beneath the surface. Zarek couldn't believe his eyes. "There's more down there?" Ethan nodded. "There are dozens of arcs, each one carrying fragments of what's left of us. This city was built right on top of one." Suddenly, a loud explosion shook the chamber. The walls shook violently, and pieces of the ceiling began to fall. The Thalri army had started bombing the site. Zarek grabbed Ethan's arm. "We have to go now." But Ethan didn't move. His gaze stayed fixed on the rising core. "If I leave now, they'll destroy it. I need to protect it until it's free." Zarek's chest tightened. He couldn't explain why, but he didn't want to abandon him. Something about Ethan's calmness, his quiet strength, made him feel different. Like maybe this human was right. Maybe everything they'd been told about Earth was a lie. Another explosion rocked the chamber, and a beam of light from above cut through the dust. Military drones swooped down, firing plasma bolts toward the glowing platform. Ethan raised his hand, and the bolts froze midair, suspended like raindrops of fire. The energy in the room twisted, humming with power. The drones crashed one by one, their circuits fried. Zarek could only stare. "You're controlling the machines." Ethan's voice was low. "They were built from our design. They still answer to us." The arc core pulsed once more, and a deep, thunderous sound filled the air, like the heartbeat of a giant. The entire building above them began to crumble as the ground split open. The store, the streets, even nearby towers started to collapse inward, swallowed by the light. Zarek shouted over the roar, "Ethan, you'll die." Ethan turned to him, smiling faintly. "Maybe, but maybe I'll finally wake up the rest of us." A massive wave of energy burst from the arc core, pushing everything away. Zarek was thrown back, crashing into a wall. He struggled to stand as the entire structure lifted from the ground. Through the dust and light he saw it, the ship, huge, circular, and beautiful. Its surface shimmered like liquid metal, ancient but alive. It rose slowly through the collapsing building, breaking through concrete and steel as if they were paper. The city above screamed in panic as the arc broke through the surface, rising into the dark sky. Blue light spread across the horizon, painting everything in an eerie glow. Zarek crawled to the edge of the destroyed basement, watching in awe and fear as the ship climbed higher. Ethan stood on the platform at its center, bathed in light. He looked down at Zarek, his voice faint but clear through the chaos. "Tell them the truth," he said. "Tell them Earth remembers." And then, with one final flash, the arc disappeared into the clouds, leaving behind only silence, and a faint shimmer of blue dust falling like snow. Zarek stood there for a long time, staring at the empty sky. Around him, the city burned. Patrol ships hovered in confusion. The once-buried truth of humanity had finally awakened, and nothing would ever be the same again. He whispered softly to himself, "Earth remembers," and somewhere far above, beyond the clouds, the ark hummed. Alive, watching, waiting. Zarek didn't sleep that night. He couldn't. The city had turned into chaos. Sirens screamed through the streets, patrol ships covered the sky, and news screens everywhere flashed the same message in bold red letters. Unidentified object escapes atmosphere, unknown origin. He stood at the broken window of his small apartment, staring at the faint blue light still glowing far above the clouds. The ark had vanished hours ago, but its presence could still be felt. A low hum that seemed to echo through the air, through the ground, even through his chest. The Thalri Council had declared a total lockdown. Curfews were enforced. Anyone connected to the incident at the store was being hunted, and Zarek knew exactly who they were looking for. He paced across the room, his tail flicking nervously. The last words Ethan spoke kept echoing in his mind. "Tell them the truth. Tell them Earth remembers." He didn't even know what that meant anymore. The truth? What truth? That the Thalri had built their empire on stolen technology? That humans, the ancient race everyone thought extinct, had left behind machines powerful enough to shake worlds? And if that was true, what else were they hiding? A soft beep broke his thoughts. Zarek turned toward his desk, where his comm screen flickered on. The signal was scrambled, distorted, but a faint blue light shimmered in the center. He froze. That color, that sound. It was the same hum he had heard from the Ark. He reached out, tapping the screen. The static cleared, and a figure appeared. A blurry silhouette surrounded by soft blue glow. Zarek? The voice was faint but unmistakable. Ethan. Zarek's heart jumped. Ethan? You're alive. The image flickered again, stabilizing slightly. Ethan's face appeared, tired but calm, his eyes still glowing faintly. Alive in a way, he said. The Ark is operational. It's listening. But we're not safe yet. Zarek leaned closer. Where are you? What's happening up there? Ethan's voice had a strange echo to it, like he was speaking through wind and static. We're above the atmosphere now. The Ark systems are reconnecting. There's a signal, something calling to us from deep space. I think it's another core. Zarek frowned. Another one? Like the one under the store? Ethan nodded. Yes, the network is reactivating. The others are waking up one by one. They're responding to the signal Earth sent before it died. Zarek's eyes widened. How many are there? Ethan hesitated. Thousands. The room fell silent except for the faint hum of the signal. Zarek could barely process what he was hearing. Thousands of ships, ancient, hidden, and possibly alive, all starting to wake up across the galaxy. Ethan continued, his tone quiet but urgent. The Council will try to stop it. They'll twist the story, make people afraid. They'll say it's a human weapon. But it's not. It's a message. A call for those who still remember what freedom means. Zarek swallowed hard. Ethan, they've already started blaming you. They're calling it a terrorist act. They think you attacked the city. Ethan's expression didn't change. That's what they always do when they can't control something. The screen flickered again, and the image began to distort. Ethan's voice grew fainter. Zarek, you need to leave the city. They'll come for you next. You saw everything. That makes you dangerous to them. Zarek shook his head. No, I'm not leaving you again. Tell me what to do. For a moment, Ethan just looked at him, and though the transmission was breaking apart, Zarek could see something almost human in his expression. Pride. Gratitude. Find the relay tower, Ethan said. It's hidden in the ruins east of the city. It used to be an old research post, one of the first places your people tested human tech. There's a terminal there that still connects to the Ark's network. If you reach it, I can guide you. Zarek's claws tightened into fists. And if I don't? Ethan's voice grew weaker. Then everything we did will fade again. They'll bury the truth a second time. The screen flickered one last time, and then went dark. Zarek stood there in silence, breathing hard. The air outside was thick with smoke and sirens, but his mind was sharper than ever. He knew what he had to do. He grabbed his coat, slung his pack over his shoulder, and slipped out through the back alleys. The city lights burned red in the distance, and drones flew in formation above the towers, scanning every street. He moved quickly, avoiding cameras, ducking under bridges, following the old tunnels that led out toward the industrial zone. Hours passed. The air grew colder, the streets emptier. By the time he reached the edge of the city, dawn was breaking. A pale, gray light cutting through the smoke. In the distance, he could see the ruins Ethan had mentioned. A field of collapsed towers, overgrown with metal vines and dust. Long ago, it had been one of the Thalri's biggest research facilities. Now it was silent, forgotten, like the world wanted to erase it. Zarek climbed over the broken walls, moving carefully through the rubble. He found a cracked metal door half buried under debris, its control panel still faintly glowing. He hesitated for a second, then pressed his hand to the scanner. To his surprise, it beeped softly and opened with a hiss. Inside, the air was stale, filled with dust and faint light. Old machines lined the walls, their surfaces covered in alien writing and human symbols. Zarek walked deeper until he found what he was looking for. A terminal in the center of the room, still active, its screen pulsing with the same blue light. He reached out and touched it. The surface was cold. Then, suddenly, the screen came to life, and Ethan's voice filled the room again. "You found it," Ethan said. "Good." Zarek looked around nervously. "Ethan, I don't know how long I can stay here. The patrols will track me." Ethan's voice was steady. "Then let's make it count. The Ark is ready to send the return signal." Zarek frowned. "What's the return signal?" Ethan hesitated, as if searching for the right words. "It's a message from Earth. The last one they sent before they vanished. It was never delivered until now. The Ark stored it, waiting for someone who could hear it." The screen flickered, and then the hologram appeared again, this time larger, clearer. A woman's face, human and gentle, made of light and code. She spoke softly, her voice filled with both sadness and hope. "To whoever finds this," she said, "we are the last of Earth. We leave behind our knowledge, our love, and our mistakes. We have learned that power without truth destroys everything it touches. If you are not of our kind, know this: the stars belong to everyone who remembers where they came from." The message ended. Silence filled the room. Zarek felt something heavy inside his chest. Not fear, not confusion, but something deeper. Respect. Ethan's voice returned. "Now you understand why they buried us. The message wasn't just about humans. It was about everyone. About freedom, memory, and choice." Zarek nodded slowly. "They'll never let this out. The Council will kill anyone who tries. Then we'll make sure they can't stop it," Ethan said. "The return signal will broadcast across every frequency, every system, every world. Once it starts, no one can silence it." Zarek turned to the console. "Tell me what to do." "Place your hand on the core," Ethan said. "The system will link through your neural field. You'll act as a relay." Zarek hesitated only a moment, then did as told. The instant his hand touched the glowing panel, a surge of energy ran through his body. He gasped, feeling heat and light rush through him like electricity. Images filled his mind: Earth's oceans, cities, stars, human memories, voices, laughter. Then suddenly he saw Ethan, not the calm version from before, but the real man he once was. A soldier, a leader, a human who refused to give up. Zarek stumbled, gripping the terminal. "Ethan, what's happening?" Ethan's voice echoed inside his mind now. "You're the signal, Zarek. The Ark can't transmit directly through Thalri networks. But you can. You'll carry the truth." Zarek's heart pounded. "You're using me as a bridge?" "Yes," Ethan said. "But you'll survive. You'll be the first non-human to remember us fully. You'll know everything we were, and everything we hope to be." The light around him grew blinding. He could feel data flowing through his thoughts, connecting, merging, and then suddenly silence. The terminal went dark. The ruins trembled slightly, and outside, the clouds split open for just a second. A thin beam of blue light shot upward into the sky, straight toward the stars. Zarek fell to his knees, breathing hard. His vision blurred. When he looked at his hands, faint blue lines glowed beneath his scales. He whispered, "Ethan," but there was no answer. Only the soft hum of the signal, still pulsing, still alive. Above the planet, deep in orbit, the Ark glowed brighter. It had received the return signal, and somewhere far away, in the endless dark between stars, other lights began to flicker in response, one after another across entire galaxies. The humans were answering. Zarek watched the light fade into the morning sky. He didn't know what was coming next, whether it would bring peace or war, but one thing was certain: the truth could no longer be buried. Earth remembered, and now so did he. The morning sky above Thalri Prime was no longer blue. A faint silver glow shimmered across the horizon, spreading slowly like a ripple across water. People stopped in the streets to stare. The air hummed softly, like distant thunder that never faded. Across the planet, communication screens flickered. Power grids surged. Every network, every system, even the military's encrypted channels, showed the same image. A blue circle turning slowly in the dark. Earth. Zarek stood at the edge of the old ruins, his heart still pounding. The beam that had shot from the tower was gone now, but the light hadn't faded. It lived inside him, glowing faintly beneath his skin, pulsing like a second heartbeat. He could still hear the faint echo of Ethan's voice in his mind. "You're the signal now." He didn't fully understand what he had become, but he could feel something vast moving through the galaxy, like invisible threads connecting stars, whispering to each other after a long silence. He looked up at the sky, whispering softly. It worked. Far above the clouds, beyond sight, the Ark floated quietly. Its metal surface shimmered with living light. Inside its core, Ethan stood before a holographic screen filled with symbols, languages from dozens of civilizations, all merging into one pulse of blue. "The signal has reached 9 sectors," a mechanical voice said. "Multiple arcs are responding. Estimated reactivation time, 23 hours. Ethan closed his eyes, exhaling slowly. "After all these centuries," he whispered, "they're waking up." On distant worlds, ancient human ships long buried under alien soil began to stir. In cold deserts, frozen oceans, and forgotten ruins, blue light began to glow. Machines that hadn't moved in millennia opened their eyes. And everywhere the signal touched, people, alien, synthetic, hybrid, paused for a moment as faint voices echoed in their minds. Not commands, not threats, just memories, laughter, music, the sound of wind across old Earth mountains. The universe remembered. Down on Thalri Prime, panic was spreading through the government halls. High command had gathered in the council tower, their screens flashing warnings. "Mass interference across all frequencies," one officer shouted. "Civilian communications are breaking down. We can't block the signal." The Grand Minister slammed his fist on the table. "Trace it. I want to know where it started." An aide hesitated. "It originated from an old research site east of the city. But the source is no longer active." The minister's eyes narrowed. "Someone triggered it. Find them." In the corner, an old scientist spoke softly, fear in his voice. "Sir, I've seen that symbol before." The minister turned sharply. "Where?" The scientist swallowed. "In the old archives. It's human. From their final transmissions before extinction." The room went silent. "Human?" the minister repeated. "That's impossible." But deep down they all knew. The truth had been hidden for centuries, locked away and buried, and now it was rising again. Zarek moved through the empty streets, staying in the shadows. Patrol ships flew overhead, scanning the ruins, but he didn't hide out of fear anymore. He felt something different now, a quiet certainty that the galaxy had just changed forever. Everywhere he looked, screens showed the same glowing symbol, the blue circle. Some citizens stared in awe, others in fear. Some fell to their knees, whispering prayers in languages long forgotten. The Thalri had built their empire on lies, on stolen fragments of Earth's forgotten technology. Now the truth was rewriting the stars. Zarek stopped near the edge of the city, where the horizon shimmered faintly. In the distance, he could see more lights rising, not from buildings, but from the ground itself. Towers of blue energy piercing the clouds like beacons. He whispered, "Ethan, what did we start?" For a moment, the wind answered him. Then he heard a faint hum in his mind. "Not an ending, Zarek. A beginning." Ethan's voice was soft, almost like a thought drifting through static. Zarek smiled faintly. "You're still alive." "I told you," Ethan replied. "Ideas don't die. The Ark's network is fully awake. The others are linking through it. Soon, every civilization will hear the truth, the full story of Earth." Zarek looked up. "They'll call it an invasion." "Maybe," Ethan said, "but they'll know it's not. We're not coming back to rule. We're coming back to remind them why they exist at all." A silence followed, calm, heavy, endless. Then the light in the sky shifted. The faint blue glow turned brighter, spreading like veins of fire across the stars. Zarek felt his chest tighten as he realized what he was seeing. Each light in the sky wasn't a star. It was a ship. Dozens of arcs, no hundreds, were emerging from hiding across the galaxy, their surfaces glowing like burning moons. Some were enormous, the size of cities, others small and sleek, like silver birds gliding through the dark. The Council's military fleets scrambled instantly. Fighters launched, cruisers armed their cannons. But the arcs didn't attack. They simply hovered, silent and graceful, spreading their blue light like waves of calm across the void. And then, across every screen, every radio, every mind connected to the signal, a single voice spoke. It wasn't human or alien. It was something between, something vast. We are the memory of Earth. We come not to conquer, but to connect. The stars remember their makers. The children of the galaxy were never meant to forget. The words echoed across systems, through planets, through hearts. Some wept, some fell silent, some raised their weapons. But no one looked away. Inside the council tower, the minister shouted, "Shut it down! Jam the signal!" But nothing worked. The transmission was unstoppable, woven into the very fabric of their networks. One of the generals turned to him, pale. "Sir, our ships aren't responding. They've gone dark." "What?" "Their systems. They're deactivating on their own." Outside, the Thalri fleets froze in midair. Engines powered down. Weapons turned cold. The ships just stopped. The blue light from the arcs washed over them, peaceful but unstoppable. Zarek stood on a rooftop, watching as the world below fell silent. Every drone, every machine, every weapon built from stolen human tech, all shutting down at once. He felt the hum in his chest again. Stronger now. Ethan's voice returned, clearer than before. "It's done. The systems built from our code have been freed. They won't serve war anymore." Zarek whispered, "Then what happens now?" "Now," Ethan said softly, "you rebuild. Not as rulers and subjects. As equals." Zarek felt a strange warmth behind his eyes. "Ethan, what about you?" There was a pause. Then Ethan's voice grew faint. "The Ark's purpose is complete. We'll return to sleep, until the next time someone needs to remember." Zarek shook his head. "No, you can't just disappear." But the voice was already fading. "You were the first to listen, Zarek. That means everything. Keep the truth alive. Don't let them bury it again." The light in the sky pulsed one last time. Slowly, the massive arcs began to ascend, higher and higher, until they were only specks of blue against the blackness of space. Then, one by one, they vanished, their light fading into the stars. For a long time, silence ruled the world. And then, something new began. The Thalri stopped fighting. Their leaders resigned. Across the colonies, people gathered, humans, aliens, hybrids, to watch the sky that no longer belonged to one race alone. In the weeks that followed, messages appeared in every city, carved into stone and light. Nobody knew who wrote them, but the words were the same everywhere. "The stars remember. Do you?" Zarek became a wanderer after that, a storyteller, some said. He traveled from planet to planet, sharing what he had seen. Many called him a liar. Others listened and wept. But sometimes, at night, when the sky was clear, he would see a faint glimmer of blue among the stars. And he knew. Ethan was still out there, watching, waiting. He'd whisper softly to the wind, "Earth remembers." And somewhere, across the endless dark, a quiet hum would answer, soft, ancient, eternal, the sound of a planet long gone, but never forgotten.